I was elected to Parliament. I know I'm just looking like a boy, but I mean, at 18 years ago in 2005, and I joined the Environmental Audit Committee with a sort of mild curiosity about climate issues, and ended up in the COP in Montreal that year. And I'm surrounded, forgive me any of those who meet this description, but surrounded by kind of bleeding heart liberals dripping on the floor, as I'm sorry, I'm a conservative, I can't help it, and a theological discussion about the certainty of the science of climate change. I just came in as a sort of person who's run a small business and went, well, if it's a conspiracy, if it's all lies, it's a hell of a good one. At which point, there's a risk here and it needs to be managed. And if we're going to manage it sensibly, we need to drive the cost curve down so that regardless of the uncertainties, which inevitably there are in any proposition or science, we can get ourselves into a good place. And that was my kind of central insight 18 years ago, and really irritating to have someone who says, oh, I thought that then and I haven't changed. But I haven't really. I think it's all about aligning incentives, deploying capital, unleashing it, and then letting the market get on. Because if you do that, it's extraordinary what you can achieve. And look what's been achieved by solar in this country. Look at the way the costs have just come out. Until today, ground-mounted solar is probably, my notes always say it's among the cheapest, as far as I can tell, numbers I've looked at, it is the cheapest form of electricity generation in this cloudy United Kingdom. It's absolutely extraordinary. And we've come a long way, and you've come a long way, and government policy goes up, down, sideways, and often despite government. The truth is this industry has persevered, it's kept going, it's had to, it's been helped occasionally by policy in what we might consider unhelpful way to find ways of removing cost and driving efficiency. And now approaching, 14 towards 15 gigawatts. But we want to increase that fivefold by 2035. And so we're really set on that. That's why we have the Solar Task Force, which Chris so ably co-chairs. That's why we're looking at everything from roof mounted. We need it all. Whenever anyone says to me they found, ground mounted, is it the cheapest? Let's just do that. And I was going, no, you need everything. We need a lot to meet this challenge. And we've seen the Committee on Climate Change and Lord Deben. John was waspish when he was appointed, and he's waspish as he departs. But then that was his job, was it? To probe and help keep us honest. I was on, having, as I said, gone to that COP. I then became more interested. I was on the joint committee between the House of Lords and House of Commons in 2007, as we did the joint scrutiny, pre-legislative scrutiny in the jargon, for the Climate Change Act. And so setting that up with the Climate Change Committee, the 5-yearly budgets, with that independent group to keep us honest, to challenge and say, you're not doing enough. And I'm pleased to say we have met all our carbon budgets. We have reduced our emissions by more than any other major economy on Earth since 1990. So as failure goes, I would suggest that's not bad. And the question is, can we keep it up? And can we take all the complex decisions together to make sure that we maintain that global leadership, that we maintain that link between decarbonising and maintaining our competitive edge as an economy? Because we're not going to take, however fanatical we may be in this room, we're not going to take people with us unless we can deliver energy security, affordability, and ideally competitive edge. And the good news is, looking at the UK, is I think we can do that if we get it right. We've lent in ahead of the rest of the world and cut our emissions more than, as I say, any other major economy. But we've set more ambitious targets going forward. Our NDC for nationally determined contribution for 2030 is very ambitious. And we've set out targets, not least for solar going forward, as well as similar targets. If you look at the trajectory, I don't know why the department, before I joined it, set a 2035 target for solar and a 2030 target for wind, go figure. But it's roughly, it takes both on to a sort of a range of around 70 gigawatts or more in 2035. And as we also commission and incentivise the balancing mechanisms, there's a real opportunity for us to have low cost electricity in a largely electrified economy giving this country a competitive edge, working with our neighbours, and that's why I'm so keen on interconnectors. I was in Brussels twice in a week before Christmas. I almost felt I needed a medal, but it was we signed a memorandum of understanding agreement ahead of the Windsor framework, so there was recognition of our North Sea neighbours of the importance of collaborating with us. By having interconnectors, we can make sure that where we have different peaks in production or demand, that we can better balance that out. And coupled with the initiatives around demand generation flex and supply generation flex and the interconnectors, then altogether, coupled with storage, I think we can move forward in a way that is both aligns with the 1.5 degrees and aligns with our economic interest. And that's the great prize, is that we really grow this sector and become world leaders in implementation, and that means all sorts of things outside of generation, of course, because as you'll all be horribly aware, probably the biggest challenge facing my department right now is grid, and that's why we're putting enormous amount of effort into it. It's when this new department was formed. Before that, for about 6 months, I'd been basically the energy minister within Hayes, coping with absolutely everything. I'm only 35. It aged me a great deal, so no one was more delighted than me when the Prime Minister decided to set up a dedicated energy security and net zero department. We now have a dedicated Minister of Nuclear and Networks, Andrew Bowie, who's leading that work, and we will imminently, I keep being told that for days and weeks in fact, but we'll imminently be producing the Network Commissioner's report, all about transmission and how we improve that. Lots of challenges, but there's such an opportunity if we get it right, to get the right infrastructure in place, align the economic incentives with the environmental needs, and this country can in fact come out as an economic winner, because I think McKinsey estimated there could be £1 trillion opportunity for this country. So more power to all your elbows. So whether you're involved in data analysis that supports this industry, whether you're creating the frames which are better designed, more lightweight, more sustainable, whatever it is, all the aspects, because this is a massive industry with a huge future. And what a wonderful thing to be developing it here in this country, which is a world leader, doing the right thing by the environment, but actually able to provide good jobs, high pay, and a positive long-term future for the people who work for you. And just as we had Scottish accents all over the world, Chris, in oil and gas for decades, I want to see even more British voices all over the world in solar, in offshore wind, and all these other technologies, the data management that goes with it, digitalization, which is also critical. It's such an exciting agenda. We shouldn't underestimate the challenges, but neither should we talk ourselves down. When we are a world leader, we can keep that position, and I'm determined, working with Chris and others on the Solar Task Force, that we will do so. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.